my own hometown. Stranger.
Howdy folks, Little John in the brewery once again, and today we're doing something a little different, something new for me, as I've discussed recently. I've been approached by the local home brew shop, the Country Brewer here in Young, by Gary and Sally, the owners, and asked if I'd like to take part in a demonstration day, mainly for all grain, but also they're going to do a bit of extract. But they've asked me to do a demonstration on the Grainfather. Never used one before. Gary's kindly lent me the Grainfather from the shop. Now I know Gary's done a couple of brews on this, but I've never used it. I've never actually physically seen one in use. So I've really coming at this fairly blind. So this is good to a degree, somewhat bit of a review as well for the Grainfather for me. I did do some studying. I jumped on YouTube and I spent a lot of time watching one video. But basically from watching that video, I got, the Grainfather is for those who don't know what it is, it's an automated, well, semi-automated brewing system, which sort of sits somewhere between brew in a bag and freebie. It does the sparge. It does mash and the sparge. It recirculates the wort, but it does it all in one vessel. So as I said, so you're getting that convenience of the brew in a bag plus the added bonus of the sparging and the recirculation of a freebie system. They've become a really popular brewing item, and to a degree for a lot of people they're the recommended way of getting into all grain brewing. And I can see why. I mean, it's easy. Doesn't take up a lot of room, as you'll see shortly. It's just one simple bit of equipment. I'm pretty sure everyone sort of knows what a Grainfather looks like. There's other machines. There's Robo Brews, Brewmeisters. There's a couple of different ones. I think there's one in Pommyland they call the Bulldog. But they're all much the same thing. It's basically a converted urn with a basket for holding the grain in for mashing. You mash. While you're recirculating and you rinse the grains off, same as you would do freebie. So I've got the instruction book, and as I said, this along with the video I did watch, which has given me a little bit of a clue in on how things sort of expect to run. I do have the added beauty, because this one has been used. It's actually pretty much assembled. The book here's got me telling me how to put everything together. I'm assuming that's all there. I'll have a look in a second. But the other thing I'm doing with this brew today is I'm going to split this batch and do the comparison between US-05 and Mangrove Jack's M44 West Coast yeast. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and just through really laziness, not laziness, but just not really thinking about getting in. I can't get Mangrove Jack's in town. I've got to order it in through the mail, and I haven't really been buying a lot of stuff in. I've had a bit of stuff. I've had a bit of stuff here. I've got a few hops, and I've got grain available. And I did have a bit of yeast that I bought for the year that I wanted to use. So I just wasn't going out and buying it. So got to the point now where my yeast stock was running low, so I had to buy some more anyway. So I bought the pack of the M44. I've got the US-05 as well. So I'm going to do this batch and split it, and then compare the two. There's a lot of discussion on the forums and things about what's the better yeast to use, and some like 05, some like M44. I've used both in the past, and I've had good results with both. I do use 05 as a standard as my sort of standard ale yeast. Again, because it's just easy for me to get. I can't get anything else readily, so it does tend to be my bit of a go-to. But I'll pick up M44 if I'm out of town, if I've got the opportunity, or I'll get liquids in when I'm buying occasionally. But like I said, the comparison is those two directly. They're comparable yeast, but they're dry packets. They cost the same amount of money, and yeah, what is going to be the difference? So what I'm going to brew up is a recipe that I'm fairly comfortable with, and a recipe I know fairly well, and a flavour profiles that I know well, and that's my Australian Pale Ale. I do several versions of Australian Pale Ale, but this is going to be fairly much the version I make for Christmas each year. This is a beer I've had really good success with at state level. I've had high commendations for this beer. It's not quite pure Aussie Pale. I do use some citrulate in the boil, and it doesn't have a lot of sugar, so it tends to get knocked around a little bit as a comp brew. But as a drinking beer, it's nice, it's fresh, and it's the first beer that a lot of people have family friends have turned to and gone, okay, that's a good home brew, I like that. It's turned a few people to go, okay, well, home brew's not a bad thing, particularly my brother-in-laws. But it's a light beer. It's not full of. It hasn't got a huge amount of flavour. The yeast is gonna. I'm going to be able to tell what the yeast is doing in it. You know, it's and you'll see if we go through. It's a fairly basic recipe. So I'm going to get this Grainfather going. I've got a couple of cameras going today, which is a little bit different for me. But I'm trying to catch a few of the different angles and trying to get a little bit of a better view on this machine while I'm going. So I'm going to get it now, make sure everything's together, get some water in, and we'll start getting it up and running. Right, so I'm going to get into this and have a look what we got. Open the lid, a few bits in here. It's a bit lifty here. Righto, so inside here there's a perforated plate in the bottom, which is obviously going to work like your false bottom in a freebie mash tun, and it's sealed around the bottom. The instructions tell you to install. That's obviously that's in there, and it says install the overflow pipe, which is already there's a pipe in there, so I'm assuming that's your overflow pipe. As I said, Gary's used this before, so it's partially set up. Okay, that seems to be very, I think this stuff here is for once we actually get the brew underway. Yeah, there's the outlet's down here, which runs from the pump which you're seeing around the back here, control on the side there. I can see the cover and everything's on there, so that's all good. That's about her, so it seems to be pretty happy with that, so I'm pretty well ready to go. Okay, so we're ready to get some water in here by the looks of this. Now, this has given me the instruction that has a calculation for working out how much mash water you use. It's got a bit of a formula there, and I'm not going to fiddle around with that. I've got my calculations for what I'm going to use. I'm going to run my same normal volumes that I'd use for my 3V system, which I think, looking at these numbers, is going to be fairly similar. You've got 17 litres of 5 kilos of grain. I'd normally mash in at 3 litres per kilo, so it's just a little bit over that. So we're going to work with that, no problem at all. So I'm going to go and get some water and get the water in here, and I'll come back when we're adding in grains and go through the mash bill. Righto folks, so I've got the water's on heating up. I've worked that out. Was pretty straightforward, as I said. It's an STC 200 built into this unit. This is actually an older model, it's not the current model of the Grainfather. So I just put a little bit of one, but the instructions, I did find in the instructions where to set the controller, and it is nice and easy. Now, grain. This batch I've got, base I'm using Joe White traditional ale, pre-milled from the country brewer. It's not my normal base, so I didn't. So that's for this brew. It's about a bit under 3.8 kilos, so not quite that full bag. I've got 364 grams. Now these measurements are correctly worked off a percentage, so obviously these you can round either way you want. And I weighed the wheat with the bag, and I think I'm going to have pretty much spot on 364. And no, 369. Now I'm not going to try and keep 5 kilos of grain back, so that's all good. 369. Now I need 182 grams of Parahel. I'll tear that off. Yeah. 194. One little over. 194. Right, I need 45 grams of Cararoma. I've grabbed the wrong bag out. Certainly helps if you grab the right thing. So there's not a lot of specialty going into this. It's just enough for a little bit of extra flavour, a little bit of colour. I don't want too much. As I said, Aussie Pale. It is a lighter taste. Don't know what in there. Okay, so that's the grain. The other thing that is going in here is 180 grams of dextrose, which I will put into the boil directly. So that's my specialty grain. Got my bag there with the ale malt. Now I'm just waiting on the Grainfather to come up the temperature. It's coming up slowly. It's 41, so I'm going to mash in at 54, and then ramp straight up to 64 and hold there. So 54 degree mash in, and we'll ramp it to 64. Now 64 is not a number I normally mash at. It's a very unusual number for me, but it's where I always mash this brew. It's not quite as light and thin as a lager, but it's not as got a lot of body. Again, it's an Australian style. It is lighter. It isn't a heavy bodied beer. It's lighter bodied than an American pale, but it's got a little bit more weight than a lager. So I go in between. I normally do 62 for my lagers, 66 for most of my pales, or even 65. This one we'll nudge it at 64, just to keep it that little bit lighter. So now we're just waiting on temp to come up, and then we'll get these grains in. Okay, so we've come up the temp. Actually, it's come up. I've got it set for 54. It's turned off at 54, and obviously there's still a little bit of heat there. It's come up to 55, so that's fine. No problem there. I'm going to turn the recirculation off. I had that on It's not recommended anywhere in the instructions, but same as the freebie, that will help with the temperature coming up a little bit quicker. So you just get our grains in the same as you do with any freebie system, making sure we're not getting any dough balls. A bit in them to go. Mix. This is always one of my favourite parts of the brew day. The smell of that grain when it first hits the water. Releases all those cool pre-beer smells. Yummo. So this was a 4 kilo bag of grain. We only wanted 3.8 kilos, so a bit under 3.8. So I'll leave a bit in there. Not going to be much though. And what the hay? Let's go the whole lot. Not really going to make much bloody difference. And at the end of the day, if I stick that extra litre, leave the extra litre in the sparge, which I was going to take out, then that'll all balance up. So instead of doing 23, we'll aim for 24, and it shouldn't make much difference. So it's a specialty grain in there as well. Now, one thing I did miss just before when I was putting the water in. Now there's a basket sitting in here. Yeah, like so. I'm not going to pull it out, I'll put the handle back in. But it does say in the instructions to take the basket out while you're putting your water in. And what you find is that on the side is a bunch of watermarks. Volume, so you know actually how much water you're putting in. So I have pulled it out, and I do have just a fraction over 16 litres of water in here, probably about 16.1, 16.2 litres. So my guesstimation was pretty good. So we're pretty happy with that. Okay, so that's nice and mixed now. Temp control is telling me we're at 54 degrees, which is where I wanted to be. Now, what you have to do now is put this top plate on top of the grain bed. Now this has got a silicon edge around it which helps to seal against the side. And a trick I learnt from the watching an extensive amount of Grainfather videos was that if you wet this, it will slip in a little bit easier and not pull off the actual screen. So I'll do that. We'll get the recirculation pipe out. Now there's another bit I had to put in there, which is a pipe which you will see shortly what it's actually for. So we pop that screen down and it just sits on top of the grain. Doesn't squash the grain. Apparently it's got to just sit on there. Like so. All good. Now, let me just confirm with the instructions. Now, we'll put in this little fella called an overflow pipe. It sits on top of the other pipe there in the middle. And my understanding is that's to stop it from actually coming out of the machine. From there, we pop the lid on and our recirculation arm back in. Yeah, that's a little bit fiddly. That's not the that's not the best designed gear in the world, and it's not even going to go in there. How do you get that on there then? Let's try this. There you go. So that's in. So that just sits inside. So what we'll do now, we'll change that to 64. Done. Turn the pump back on. And she's off and away again. Now down the bottom here, there's a switch. One says normal, one says mash. And again, that's actually, reading a bit further, that's actually the controller I'm talking about for the switching of the elements. So at the moment on normal, it's using the big element, the 2000 watts, so it's heating quicker. Once you actually get to 64 or whatever, whatever your mash temperature is, you then change that over to a mash temperature and it only uses the 500 watts. So that I will assume is to help combat overshooting the temperature by giving it just a more gentle heat. Pump's running the whole time, and the little switch here is set to mash. I'm going to leave it there. There's not any real clear instruction exactly what difference that makes. It seems to be happy if I leave it on mash, so we'll let that go. So now it's just a case of waiting for this to come up to our 64 and then setting a timer to make sure we're going alright. So that's just gone to 55, so it's heating up. We're circulating. So that seems pretty good to me. 56, so coming up to temp nicely. So we'll let that go, let it run through a mash cycle. So I'm going to mash at 64. We'll run 64 for 40 minutes, and then I'll do my standard. I'll raise it to I might do a quick rest through 68 for about 10 minutes, and then go to 72 before I sparge. It's now on 58, so this is ramping up reasonably quickly. I'm on 57, switching around. But yeah, so I'll let it go for now, let it do its thing. We'll come back a bit later in the mash. Okay, so we've now completed our mash, gone through a saturation rest at 64, ramped up to 72, held it there for about 10 minutes. So now we're going to sparge. Now, to do the sparge on here, remove the lid. And the recirculation tube, which will turn off there apparently. Which might make life a little bit easier. So I'll just set that there for the moment. Now, we have to lift the grain bucket out of here. So it's got a little handle that comes with it. Now, it's going to be a little bit heavy, I imagine. As it comes up, turns, and there's a couple of little brackets around the inside, which this inner tub sits on, and we'll just let that start to drain a bit. Now I've got my sparge water here heated up. Now I've just done this in my boil kettle. Apparently with the Grainfather system you can buy an actual Grainfather urn which is designed for the sparge water. Doesn't really matter how you do it. So that's draining. So basically all we're doing now is a standard fly sparge. Now I've got my water here, it's sitting on about 87 degrees at the moment. And from previous experience I know that will get me, to the end will get me a pretty close to a 75 degree grain bed temp. the end of the sparge. Now the instructions on the Grainfather say to try and keep your water about an inch above that top perforated plate, and pretty much the same as what you're doing with your 3V. You want, just having that small amount over your grain bed, constant flow. Now, this would certainly be much easier if I could pump into here, or have a continuous flow, which would require having either a pump, which I haven't got the connection for, got the pump but not the connection, or having the kettle much higher to allow for gravity feed. But we're not set up for either, so we'll just do it by hand at the moment. I'm going to take that lid off there just so that sort of cool off a little bit. Now, calculations in the paperwork for the Grainfather told me, going off the numbers they used, I need around 16.5 litres of sparge water. My calculations on the 3V numbers were around about 20 litres. I did have 20 litres in here to start with, a fraction over 20, so I'm going to go halfway. I'm going to go for about 18 litres and sort of meet in the middle. I'm trying to keep this as much as I can towards the Grainfather instructions, because that's what I'm doing. But again, those calculations are only rough in my head. I haven't sat down and done actually on paper properly. Maybe we'll go to 16. We'll go to 16.5. 16.5 to 17. See how we go. The numbers, the Grainfather numbers should be accurate. I mean, they've been around for a while. They've obviously done a lot of research and testing to get, work out their calculations on what you need. So we'll go with that and see where we end up at. The other thing too is this system certainly isn't going to have the losses that I'd have over my 3V system. So that could account for the 2 litres of extra volume I've got with this isn't on the Grainfather. So I did adjust my loss. I did adjust my loss volumes with the calculations, but again, given this is only the first one I've ever used one, I really don't know what the loss numbers are. So I may have overestimated. The other thing I did notice is that the pipe in the top and the overflow here was sitting about probably 6-8 inches above the top of the grain bed, or the top of the water during the mash. Now on the video I've watched, the top of this was actually sitting on top of the, right on top of the water. So the mash water was sitting up to that, and it was like a, spillway on a dam sort of thing. So I don't know whether I've just not pushed hard enough on this central rod to get it down lower, because to me it seemed like it didn't want to go any further. It certainly still doesn't feel like it wants to. So I don't know what's going on there. But at the moment, it seems to have worked. Once we finish this sparge, I can get a refac reading and see the numbers are roughly somewhere where around where we expect them to be. But yeah, it kept itself rough, pretty close to the around that mash temperature right through. I did forget to change the main power switch from the normal setting back to the mash setting once I did get to the 64. So I did get, there was one stage I did notice it did shoot up to 67, but when it came back down pretty quickly. And once I got it back onto the mash setting, it was only really fluctuating by a degree or two either way. That is one thing I would put down as a bit of a negative with the controller. On my 3V system with the STC 1000 or 100, depending on where you bought it from, it's the same bloody thing. I can set my temperatures down to within 0.1 of a degree. So I set my mash temperature with a 0.3 of a degree variance. So if I'm going for a 64 degree mash, it's sort of clicking between 63.7 and 64.3, where this controller only has a 1 degree variance. So at 64, it's got more chance of shooting up a bit higher and dropping lower before it was sort of kicking in. So at times it was going 65 and then dropping back to 63. Now, again, that's not a big issue. It's only, that's only 2 degrees, or even like, even that's where it's up to 66. And even the 3V system with a better control, it does at times will still shoot a little bit higher. But I certainly don't get a 3 degree or even a 4 degree difference during the mash. Most brewers, and the reality is, it's not a big issue, and that's not going to make a huge amount of difference. But if you're a little bit fussy about where you want to be, I'm not super fussy. I don't particularly, make sure that my brews are sitting within a really tight little band when they're mashing. But I certainly do prefer that if I've chosen to do a 64 degree mash, that I get a 64 degree mash. So, that is one minor negative I've spotted at the moment. Like I said, not a biggie, and for most brewers it's going to mean diddly squat. And then when it comes to the final beer, you're not going to really notice any difference. Okay, so I'm going to finish sparging this off, and we'll come back a little bit later. We're doing some hops and things. Righto, so sparge is all but completed, so I've switched the machine back on for a boil. So that's the bottom switch back to normal, switched it to boil on the controller itself. Now apparently whatever that switch does, it overrides the temperature settings in the controller. So that's all good. So all that's happening while we come into a boil, we'll get some hops ready. Now, as I said, this is my standard Aussie Pale, and that means good old pride of Ringwood for bittering. In this case, we're hitting, looking at 21 grams. 8.3. Now, plenty of people like to bag out the old pride of Ringwood and give it a hard time. Doesn't get much respect in a lot of the brewing circles. But I myself find it to be bloody. It's a good hop when it's used in the right kind of ways, and in this sort of style, it's you really need it. I mean, I know it's becoming a hop that's going to get hard to get hold of. Most of the commercial growers have cut it, and they're more leaning now towards the Super Pride. I'm assuming that's just more a commercial thing. It's more about getting better better crops and better alpha acids. I mean, Pride of Ringwood was a big alpha acid when it first was released, but I mean that's 30-40 years ago now. It's been around for a long time, so it's becoming outdated, but it's quintessential with that Australian taste. The earth and the biting dirtiness of it, and the spice just screams Australian styles of beer. And to do this an Aussie Pale Ale, you know, we're talking in the style of the Coopers, you know, that sort of thing. It's got to be there. You've got to start with that as your base. It just doesn't work if it's not. So this is why I make sure I've got some growing in my garden, so I can in the future keep myself stocked in Pride of Ringwood. Now big flavour hop here is the Galaxy, and I've got nice fresh hops, nice fresh flowers here. Now I forgot I had flowers, not calculated on pellets, at 15 grams. Now it's a fairly steady rule. You need, you know, at sort of 10 to 20% more if you're using flowers than if you're using pellets. So I'm going to want more like 17 or 18 grams to get me where I want to be. And I'll tell you, this, it smells bloody good. The day they release Galaxy to the public, so you can get rhizomes, I reckon there'll be brewers everywhere getting onto this. It's so popular. And it can't be too far off, surely. It's been around for a while now. But even if they do, I mean, they're not going to release their stranglehold on the market, I wouldn't think, real quick. So us poor home brewers aren't going to get any relief from it for a while. Okay, let's between 17 and 18 grams of Galaxy. I'll need to rebag that. And then our Roma addition at the very end. Some Citra. As I said, this isn't Australian, but for me it just gives that nice little extra bit of fruit that balances nicely with the Galaxy. The Galaxy is that stronger and more pungent fruit, where the Citra's lighter. You know, you're getting the passion fruit and the mango, you know, and the big bold, you know, summery fruit flavours with the Galaxy. Then the Citra gives you the lighter stuff. It's lemon, a little bit of tangerine, you know, a little bit of mandarin. Lighter stuff works really nicely together. So 15 grams of the Citra. As I said, this is very light. This is only 2 minutes at the end of the boil, just for a little bit of character and a little bit of the nose, and it just works really nice. So that's it. That's the hops. 60 minutes for the Pride of Ringwood, 10 minutes for the Galaxy, 2 minutes for the Citra. There's no flame out additions, there's no whirlpool, there's no dry hop. That's it, straight out. Simple Aussie Pale Ale. Plenty of flavour though. Nice malt, sweet, good hoppy, good hop flavours as well. Okay, so that's it. We'll wait now until we get the boil on and get some hops into the wort. Righto, we've got a good boil going on, and it is a good boil. It doesn't muck around. It's got a good boil happening, but temp controls tell me we're at 98 degrees. Now, when I went to school, boiling water was 100 degrees, and most other times it is 100. So that's a bit of a concern. If it's 2 degrees out now, that means the mash was 2 degrees out. So instead of mashing at 64, we were mashing at 66. But again, first time around, you learn these things. So that's an adjustment you'd have to make on future batches. I mean, I have the same problem with my 3B system, where the actual temperature sensor is a few degrees out. You have to make adjustments for those, so that's not a biggie. And again, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. So, hops in. Probably should have put a hop bag in there, but we haven't. I will use a hop bag for the rest of them, so I'm going to throw hop leaf in there. For the sake of cleaning with the pump, I'm not going to use the pump to chill. I won't be able to use the won't be able to use the chiller that comes with this thing. I haven't got connections to use it. It's a counterflow chiller, would be great, but I just haven't. I have not got the connections of the gear here to get it working today. So I'm just going to use my immersion chiller as I normally would. So that's not too much of an issue, but I will put a bag in before I put any more hops in, so just to reduce the chances of blocking anything up. I don't want to go killing Gary's Grainfather on him, but yeah, so I'll let that go now, get the timer on. That's the 60-minute edition. Righto, we've got 10 minutes to go on the boil. So I'm going to drop in 182 grams of dextrose. Okay, so we've got our 60-minute pride of ringwood in there. 5 minutes ago I dropped in some wallflock, and now there goes our galaxy leaf. Put that in. That's in there nicely. Okay, so boil's finished. As I said, I've popped my immersion chiller in there. It's running. Pop my spoon in there just to help give that a stir as it cools. Pull the hot bag out. Righto. Now, as I said, the Grainfather comes with its own immersion chiller, which it sets up on top of the lid, just sits there. This connects up, it's counterflow, connects up through the pump and recirculates. Well, it doesn't recirculate, it pumps through. And you see, you basically pump from here directly into the fermenter, and it's all but at pitching temperature, depending on your water source. As I said, I don't have the connections readily available to just knock it up and put it into place, so I haven't worried about it. So I'll just go on the immersion chiller as per a normal brew. Now that temp's coming down pretty quickly. It's down to 82 or 81 already, so it's working nice and fast. Obviously, if I was using the Grainfather regularly, you'd set up your connections and use the counterflow chiller. That's obviously a better option if you can use one, but for the sake of today, I wasn't going to muck around and go and get fittings and play around with connections and stuff. And I haven't got a real easy accessible water source here in the garage. I've got to lug me water in, so I can use the immersion chiller. I can drag the garden hose in and connect it up, which is what it's designed to do. So I'm happy to go with this today. 78, it's dropping pretty quickly, so that's all good. We'll come back when it's time to transfer to the fermenter. Okay, I've finished the chilling. I'm not going to get, I don't think it's going to get any lower anyway. got to 32 degrees. Given it's about 34 degrees outside today, and tap water's probably in the mid-20s, I don't really think we're going to get any lower. So I'll pull the chiller out. Now I don't want to upset that too much. Let's settle a little bit in there. Okay, stir it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes, just to let everything drop out before I try and transfer over. I'm hoping there's enough height on the drain on this that we can avoid too much of that crud. So I'll come back when we're ready to do that. Okay, that's sat for a little bit. Could probably sit for a bit longer. It doesn't seem to be dropping right out. But I'm going to start the transfer. Now, my understanding is if I turn the pump on, I should be able to just pump this into my fermenters. As I said, I think the process is designed to run straight through the counterflow chiller into the fermenter, but this is going to work. Yeah, it's pumping. It's only going reasonably slow, so that's all good. Righto, so that works. I'm going to get a quick hydro sample. A little bit of drama with the gravities. Okay, that's pouring pretty clear now. There's a little bit of gump there just initially, but that's looking pretty good. It's not crystal clear, but also considering that we weren't able to get that proper recirculation that I think we should have, because we didn't get that pipe in. We've done alright, and our initial gravity now is it's about 1048, so we're actually now a little bit over. So once again, bloody, I hate taking measurements on the bloody run. They're never accurate. I don't care how you do it, even bloody refractometers have got automatic temperature correction and all the rest of it. I'm yet to find one that's accurate. Well, mine anyway. It's not accurate when you're trying to do any readings. It's good to get an idea, but it's definitely proven to be inaccurate. No, I said we had a reading there before, it seemed to be under, so now I'm 3 points over where I want it to be. There's a fraction under 25 litres in this Grainfather once the cooling is finished, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what we end up with. So I'm thinking we've ended up with just a few points extra, but that's going to be accounted for with the extra, there's extra 230 grams between the decks and the light dry malt, so that on its own is going to be worth those 3 points. So I think taking that out, we've probably hit smash on, or pretty close to the calculated efficiency, and I had worked on 73%. So that's based on getting 23 litres in the fermenters. So that's going to be our big tell. where we go. But we're pretty close, not far off at all. It's only going to be, a litre either side. I'm happy with what we've got. Like I said, for my first day, I'm not sure exactly what to expect. I'm pretty happy. Turns out that had I just flown through with the Grainfather numbers, we would have been pretty close, and I'd say 70% efficiency was probably, a reasonably expected outcome, and probably where we would have got. So, overall, I'm reasonably impressed with this bit of gear. It does what it's meant to do. Had we been able to use the counterflow chiller, would have made it a little bit easier. Definitely a more straightforward, simpler day than using the freebie system. Am I going to rush out and buy one? Personally, no, I'm not. But I've got a lot of dollars. I've put a lot of dollars into my freebie system, and I really enjoy the extra hands-on that goes along with that. Would I recommend this system for somebody getting into all grain? Definitely. Definitely. It's a fantastic way of getting in. I haven't tried the beer yet. It's looking good. I can't see any reason why it's going to be any different than anything else. It's going to be like any system. A couple of tweaks along the way and adjustments to your recipes and your process to get it right. But to jump in first time and knock out a brew on the numbers, that's a great thing. I mean, it took me a long time doing when I first went all grain to actually hit the right numbers. I was all over the shop. It took me a long time to dial in my efficiencies and how many grains. So if you are thinking about it, if you're not playing around with kits and things and you think you'd like to get into all grain, definitely think about one of these. They're not cheap, but at the same time it's not overly expensive. I think these are running $1,100 to $1,200 depending on exactly what bits and pieces you get with them. I've got a HLT there which costs somewhere in the vicinity of $600. And then another couple of hundred for boil kettles. I mean, you can spend $1,000 quite easily on a freebie system. So in the big picture, $1,000 is no big outlay, and you're going to get that back over and over. We know that with home brewing. So hopefully, anyone out there who's thinking about it, even looking up changing equipment or looking for a simple way to get into all grain, this is your option. It's been pretty much been 5 hours from start to now. I've still got a bit of cleaning up to do. And again, I did step mashing. Had I done just a single infusion mash at 66 and sparged out from there, it would have been a lot quicker. Probably would have saved the best part of an hour. I've seen people do. They're talking 3.5 hour days. If you've preheated your water and I've got timer on to getting up to speed quicker, then it's going to help. I started from cold, from fresh. Still trying to work out what I was doing. So you've got to allow for that. So that's me for the day. I'm not going to bother with any more of this. As I said, US-05, M44 into these. This will be a taste comparison in about 6 weeks' time to see what difference there is between one brew and the other. Hopefully one of these, or a mix of the two, will be satisfactory to ship off to the States to have a crack at the Aussie Pale Ale category again. Only time will tell. So, till I'm looking at yous again, we talk and brew, play and brew, drink and brew. Good brewing.